The memory of Christmas is a ghost that haunts my quiet house. It is not a sad ghost, not really, but its presence makes the silence that much louder. I can close my eyes and be right back there. In the thick of it, the year Marcus was 10. The air would be thick with the scent of pine needles and roasting turkey, and the whole house would vibrate with a kind of joyful chaos. Wrapping paper would litter the floor like colorful snow. Marcus would be kneeling by the tree, his small face alight with a wonder that felt like the only true magic in the world, carefully arranging a plate of cookies for Santa and a carrot for the reindeer. My husband, Robert, would be fiddling with the camera, his laughter a warm, steady rumble that filled every corner. That was a home. That was a family. The warmth of those days is a physical thing I can almost touch, a blanket I can wrap around myself when the present feels too cold. This past Christmas, the cold was not just in the air outside. It was a chill that had settled deep in my bones. Robert has been gone for 5 years now, and the house that once echoed with laughter now only echoes my own footsteps. This year, Marcus and his wife, Chloe, were not coming to me. There was a new tradition, it seemed. Chloe's mother, Alina, was visiting them for the entire week. I knew this only because Marcus had told me in a rushed phone call a month prior, his voice tinged with an apology that did not quite mask something else. Resignation, perhaps. So I spent my Christmas day alone, and my connection to my son's life was reduced to a series of digital squares on a screen. My phone became a window into a world from which I was excluded. Marcus would post photos, and I would study them like an archaeologist deciphering hieroglyphs, searching for meaning, for a glimpse of his true feelings. There was a picture of the three of them at a frosty Christmas market, all scarves and steaming mugs. Alina was in the middle, her arm linked possessively through Marcus's, her smile wide and triumphant. Chloe was on his other side, leaning her head on his shoulder. They looked like a perfect unit. A closed circle. Another photo showed a dinner table groaning under the weight of a meal that could have fed a small village. A magnificent prime rib, glistening Yorkshire puddings, vegetables arranged like jewels. I recognized Chloe's fine china, the same set she had registered for and that I had contributed to so happily. I sat in my silent living room, eating a simple chicken breast, and felt a pang of something sharp and ugly, not quite jealousy, but a profound sense of irrelevance. It was that feeling, that aching distance, that sparked the idea, a surprise visit. It was impulsive, perhaps foolish, but the need to bridge that gap, to feel like a real part of my son's life again, was a physical ache. I would not intrude on their holiday, I reasoned. I would go after, just for one night. A quick trip to the city. A mother popping in to see her son. It should be a simple thing. It should be a welcome thing. I packed a small bag, my hands trembling slightly with a nervous excitement. I told myself it was the thrill of the surprise. I drove halfway to the city before I worked up the nerve to call. The car hummed around me, a cocoon of false confidence. I pressed his name on the screen, my heart beating a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The phone rang once, twice. "Mom," Marcus's voice came through, familiar and yet suddenly distant. "Hello, is everything all right?" "Everything is fine, Marcus," I said, forcing a brightness into my tone that I did not feel. "I am actually in the car. I was thinking, I am not far from the city. I thought I would surprise you. I could stay for just one night. We could have a quick breakfast together tomorrow morning." The silence on the other end of the line was not just silence. It was a heavy, palpable thing, thick with unspoken words. I could hear him breathing. I could almost feel him scrambling for an answer. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Tonight," he finally said, and the word was strained. "Mom, that is not really a good time." The excitement in my chest curdled into something cold and heavy. "It is just for one night," I repeated, the plea evident in my voice even to my own ears. "I do not need any fuss. I can just take the guest room." Another pause, longer this time. I heard a muffled sound, a hand covering the receiver, and the low murmur of voices. He was talking to Chloe. A knot tightened in my stomach. He came back on the line, his voice artificially light. Hold on a second, Mom. Chloe wants to talk to you." My breath caught. Why would Chloe need to talk to me? Before I could form a question, her voice was there, crisp and clear and devoid of any real warmth. It was the voice she used when serving a customer at the art gallery she managed. Polite, polished, and entirely transactional. "Sharon, hello," she began. "Marcus is so happy you called." It was such a strange, formal thing to say. Why could he not express that happiness himself? She continued without waiting for a response. It is so unfortunate you did not call yesterday. We would have loved to have you, truly. But there is a bit of a situation with the guest room. I stared ahead at the road stretching out before me, the city skyline now a gray smudge on the horizon. A situation? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Yes, she said, and her tone was so smooth, so rehearsed. We are in the middle of renovating it. It is an absolute mess in there. We had a plumbing issue last week that caused some water damage. There is drywall dust everywhere, the carpet is torn up. It is not fit for anyone to stay in. I am so very sorry. The words landed like blows. Each one felt deliberate, calculated. A plumbing issue, water damage, it was so specific, so plausible, and yet my entire being recoiled from it. My intuition, a sense I have learned to trust over 62 years of life, screamed that it was a lie. It was too neat, too convenient. The timing was too perfect. I see, I managed to say, my throat tight. Perhaps we can plan a proper visit for next month? Chloe offered, and the suggestion was so hollow, so dismissive, that it felt like another form of rejection. Yes, I heard myself say, the word automatic. Of course, next month. We exchanged a few more meaningless pleasantries, and then the call was over. I pulled my car over onto the shoulder of the highway, my hands shaking too much to continue driving. The cars whizzed past me, their drivers oblivious to the small, personal earthquake that had just occurred. The guest room is being renovated. The sentence played over and over in my mind. I thought of the photos from just days ago. There had been no sign of any disruption, no mention of a plumbing disaster. Their home had looked pristine, perfect. A cold certainty settled over me. It was not the room that was unfit for me. It was me who was unfit for the room. The rejection was a physical pain, a gut-wrenching twist that left me breathless. But as I sat there, the hurt began to harden into something else. A resolve. If that was a lie and every fiber of my being told me it was, then what was the truth? What were they hiding? Why would my own son not want me for one single night? The questions swirled, dark and insistent. This was not just about a canceled visit. This was about something deeper, something wrong. And as I looked toward the city where my son lived, a new, terrifying path opened up before me. I would not just accept this. I would find out the truth. The uneven welcome was over. The hunt for answers was about to begin. The drive to Marcus's neighborhood was a blur of tree-lined streets and a churning in my gut that I could not name. I told myself I was simply running errands, that the fancy bakery on Chestnut Avenue was the real destination, its artisanal sourdough a perfect excuse for being in this part of town. It was a flimsy lie, the kind you tell yourself when you are not yet ready to admit the truth. My hands were tight on the steering wheel, 10 and 2, as if the sheer force of my grip could keep my world from spinning off its axis. I had to see it for myself. I had to know if my imagination, fueled by a lifetime of waiting for the other shoe to drop, was playing cruel tricks on me. I turned onto their street, a row of beautifully maintained Victorians with manicured lawns that spoke of a quiet, prosperous life. My son's life. The life I was apparently too disruptive to be a part of for more than a few supervised hours. I slowed the car, my eyes scanning the house numbers until I found it. Number 214. It looked peaceful. The porch swing was still. The windows were dark. For a moment, a foolish, hopeful moment, I thought perhaps I had been wrong. Perhaps the renovation was real, and they were simply out for the day. I felt a wave of shame for my suspicion. I was about to drive away, to go buy my overpriced bread and try to forget this entire ugly feeling, when a familiar silver SUV pulled into the driveway. It was Aline's car. My breath caught in my throat. I pulled over too quickly, the tires scraping against the curb, and cut the engine. I slid down in my seat, a ridiculous gesture that made me feel like a private investigator in a bad movie, but I could not be seen. Not now. I watched as Aline, Chloe's mother, stepped out of her car. She was wearing crisp linen trousers and a bright blue sweater, looking effortlessly put together. She did not ring the doorbell. She did not even have a casserole dish or a gift bag in her hands. She simply walked up to the front door, and before she could even raise her hand to knock, the door swung open. There was Chloe, my daughter-in-law. She was smiling, a wide, easy smile I rarely saw directed at me. She held the door open wide, ushering Alina inside with a familiar, casual wave of her hand. Come in, Mom. I just made a fresh pot of coffee." The words floated across the quiet street and pierced through my closed car windows, through the metal of the door, straight into my heart. "Mom." Then Marcus appeared behind her, his arm looping around Chloe's waist. He leaned in and gave Alina a warm hug. "Hey, Elle, good to see you." They were a picture of familial ease, a perfect triangle of belonging, and I was on the outside, a spectator to a life from which I was excluded. The renovation, the lie, it crashed down on me with the weight of a collapsing building. There was no dust, no plastic sheeting, no evidence of any work at all. The windows were clean, the curtains were hung. This was not a house under construction. This was a home where a mother-in-law was welcomed for a casual lunch on a Tuesday afternoon. The wrong mother-in-law. A pain, sharp and physical, seized my chest. I could not breathe. The tears came then, hot and silent, tracing paths through my foundation. How many times had this happened? How many casual lunches, how many weekends had I missed because of a lie? The specific cruelty of it was breathtaking. It was not a busy schedule or a simple desire for space. It was a targeted exclusion. A boundary, as Marcus had said, but a boundary erected for me alone. I do not know how long I sat there. The sun moved across the sky. I watched a delivery truck stop, a package left on the porch. The world continued as if my heart had not just been shattered into a million unrecognizable pieces. When I could finally move, I started the car. The bakery was forgotten. The errands did not matter. There was only one destination now, my son. I drove to his office in a silent rage, a storm contained within the shell of my body. The sleek glass building, a monument to his success, seemed to mock me. I parked illegally, not caring about the potential ticket. I marched through the automatic doors, my heels clicking a sharp, angry rhythm on the polished marble floor. I ignored the receptionist's questioning look. "I need to see Marcus. Now." My voice was tighter than I intended. "Do you have an appointment, ma'am?" the young woman asked, her fingers poised over her keyboard. "I am his mother," I said, and the words felt like a challenge. "Tell him Sharon is here." She must have heard the finality in my tone because she picked up the phone immediately. A moment later, Marcus appeared from the hallway, a look of mild concern on his face. "Mom, is everything all right? What is wrong?" "We need to talk, privately, now." I did not wait for him to lead me. I turned and walked toward a small, empty conference room I had spotted near the elevators. He followed me in, closing the door behind him. The concern had been replaced by alarm. "Mom, you are scaring me. What is going on? Did something happen?" "I was in your neighborhood today," I began, my voice trembling with the effort to keep it steady. "I saw Alina." His face went pale. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "There was no renovation, Marcus. There is no dust. There are no workers. Your mother-in-law was welcomed inside for coffee. She called her Mom." The words tumbled out, sharp and accusing. "You lied to me. You both looked me in the eye and you lied to me. Why?" He deflated, leaning back against the glass wall. "Mom, it is not like that." "Then what is it like?" I demanded, my voice rising. "Explain it to me. Explain why my own son would tell me I cannot stay in his home because of some imaginary construction, while Chloe's mother is welcomed with open arms. Is my money not good enough? Did I not buy the right brand of towels for the guest bathroom? What did I do?" "You did not do anything," he said, his own voice rising to match mine. He ran a hand over his face, a gesture of pure exhaustion. "It is Chloe. She felt it would be better this way." "Better for whom? For her. What does that even mean, Marcus?" She said. He hesitated, his eyes darting around the room, unable to meet my gaze. "She said you have a very strong personality. She said your traditional way of doing things, it makes her uncomfortable. She said it would clash with the life we have built. Our life is quiet, Mom. It is modern. She felt having you stay over would be disruptive." The words hung in the air between us, ugly and stark. A strong personality, traditional way. Euphemisms, I knew them well. They were the polite words people used to dress up something much uglier. They were the words used to describe a woman who did not know her place, a woman who was too much. "Disruptive," I repeated, the word tasting like ash. "And Alina, is she not disruptive? Does her personality not clash, or is it just me? Is it just the black mother who is too much of a problem for your modern, quiet life? Do not say that, Marcus whispered, his eyes finally meeting mine, filled with a pain I now recognized as his own. It is not about that. Then what is it about, Marcus? I was crying now, the tears coming freely. Tell me the truth. Look at me and tell me the truth. Is it because I am black? Is that the traditional way that makes your wife so uncomfortable? The distance she needs to keep, is it from me? The dam broke. The strong, successful man I had raised crumpled before my eyes. His shoulders slumped and a sob racked his body. He covered his face with his hands, his whole frame shaking. He did not need to say yes. His breakdown was the most honest confession he could have given me. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. I am so sorry, Mom. I am so sorry. I did not know how to tell you. I did not want to hurt you. I thought I was keeping the peace. The fight left me then, replaced by a profound, bone-deep sorrow. My son, my beautiful boy, had been living with this. He had chosen a woman who saw his own mother as something to be managed, to be kept at a distance, and he had agreed to it. He had become an accomplice in my exclusion. I looked at him, weeping in the sterile conference room, and I felt my heart break all over again, not just for myself, but for him. For the son who had been forced to choose and in his cowardice had chosen wrong. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving him there with the ruins of his lie. I walked through the lobby, past the startled receptionist, and out into the blinding afternoon sun. I had my truth. It was more devastating than any lie. And I had no idea what I was supposed to do with it now. The future I had imagined, the grandmother I had hoped to be, it was all gone, replaced by a chilling question that echoed in the silence of my car. What kind of life had my son built, and did I have any place in it at all? The silence in my house was a physical presence. It was not the peaceful quiet I had cultivated over the years, the kind filled with the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant chirping of birds. This was a heavy, suffocating silence, thick with the ghost of words that had been spoken and the echo of a door that had slammed shut. For 3 weeks, it was my only companion. I moved through the rooms like a phantom, touching the familiar surfaces, the cool granite of the kitchen counter, the worn fabric of my reading chair, as if to reassure myself that my world still existed. But it did not. It had fractured, and I was standing on a piece of driftwood in the middle of a vast, cold ocean. Sharon is shattered. The outline said it, but the words did not capture the totality of it. It was not a plate dropped on the floor. It was the foundation of my identity, the very bedrock of who I believed I was, a mother, a nurturer, a creator of a home that had been dynamited and declared worthless. My phone became an object of dread. It would light up with Marcus's name, a persistent, pulsing accusation. I would watch it until the screen went dark again. He left voicemails. His voice, first pleading, then frustrated, then hurt, was a fresh wound each time. Mom, please, we need to talk. Chloe feels terrible. I do not know what to do. I could not answer. What could I say? That the woman he chose had looked at the essence of me, the room that held a lifetime of hopes and memories, and had seen only something to be renovated, to be erased. It felt like he had chosen her rejection of me over my love for him. The crisis of loyalty was his, but the isolation was entirely mine. The days bled into one another. I stopped going to my book club. I canceled my volunteer shift at the library. I existed in a state of suspended animation, waiting for a resolution that I could not begin to imagine. My faith, usually a comfort, felt distant. I would open my Bible, but the words swam on the page, offering no solace. The parable of the prodigal son came to mind, but I felt no joy at the idea of a return. I felt only the sting of the departure. Then, one Tuesday evening, the doorbell rang. It was not the tentative press of a delivery driver, but a firm, decisive sound that echoed through the silent house. I knew, with a cold certainty, that it was him. I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart hammering against my ribs. A part of me wanted to retreat upstairs, to pretend I was not home. But a stronger, deeper part, the part that had rocked him to sleep and kissed his scraped knees, could not leave him standing on the porch. I opened the door. He was alone. The sight of him, silhouetted against the fading twilight, was a punch to the gut. He looked older, the lines around his eyes deeper, his shoulders slumped with a weight I had never seen him carry. He had lost weight. His face was a canvas of remorse. "Mom," he said, and his voice was raw. I did not say anything. I simply stepped back, allowing him to enter. The gesture felt monumental. He walked into the living room and stood awkwardly, as if he were a guest. The silence stretched between us, taut and painful. "I am so sorry," he began, the words tumbling out. "These last few weeks they have been hell, an absolute hell." I remained silent, sitting slowly in my armchair. I would not make this easy for him. He needed to feel the weight of it. He sank onto the edge of the sofa, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped tightly. That night, after we left, it was all Chloe and I could talk about. It started as a fight, but it became something else, something bigger. He looked up at me, his eyes pleading for understanding. She does not get it, Mom. She thinks it was just a room. She thinks I am overreacting. She said I was being controlled by a sentimental guilt trip." I flinched. The words were like a slap. Controlled. A guilt trip. Is that what my love looked like from the outside? "I got angry," Marcus continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I have never been that angry with her. I told her it was not about a room, it was about you. It was about respect. It was about everything you are." He ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. "We have had so many painful conversations about family, about the values you and Dad raised me with, about the kind of home we want to build." He paused, swallowing hard. "It has caused a rift, Mom, a major one. We are in counseling now. It is not good." A bitter part of me felt a grim sense of vindication, but it was quickly washed away by a wave of sorrow for my son. I did not want his marriage to fail. I just wanted my place in his life to be respected. "Marcus," I said, and my voice was surprisingly steady, "what did you expect her to say? That room represents my history. It represents my future hopes. To her, it was just a project. That is the fundamental difference. You were raised to see the heart of a home. She was raised to see its potential resale value." He nodded miserably. "I know that now. I see it so clearly. I should have defended you more. I should have stopped the conversation the second it started. I failed you." The air was thick with his confession. This was the moment. The outline said I would not offer easy forgiveness, but a hard truth. I drew a deep breath, drawing on a strength I did not know I still possessed. "Marcus," I said, looking directly into his eyes, "I love you. I will always be your mother. That is a fact that cannot be changed by anything." I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes, and I knew I had to extinguish it gently but firmly. "But what happened that night? It changed something. You stood by while the meaning of my life was reduced to a decorating error. The relationship we had, the one where I was the unwavering center of your world, that cannot go back to what it was. It is broken." The hope in his eyes died, replaced by a fresh wave of pain. "What are you saying?" he whispered. "I am saying that if we are to have a relationship going forward, it will have to be new. It will have to be built on something more honest. There will be boundaries. You have chosen your wife and you must build your life with her. But that life must now make space for me on my terms, not on hers. The guest room," I felt a lump form in my throat, but I pushed through it. "The guest room was never under renovation. It was always ready. But my place in that part of your life. That was the thing that was conditional. That was the thing that could be remodeled out of existence, and I will not live with that." The truth of those words settled over me, not as a burden but as a liberation. I was prioritizing my own heart. I was stating my value. Marcus was crying now, silent tears tracing paths down his face. He did not argue, he simply nodded, a slow, painful acceptance. "I understand," he said, his voice thick. "I do not like it, but I understand." We sat in the quiet for a long time. The reckoning was over. The new foundation, fragile and raw, was laid. There was a closure in that understanding, a painful peace. He would go home to a troubled marriage, and I would stay in my quiet house, but the cord between us, though scarred, was not severed. He stood to leave, and I walked him to the door. He hugged me, a desperate, clinging hug. "I love you, Mom," he whispered into my shoulder. "I love you too, Marcus," I said, and I meant it. I closed the door behind him and leaned against it, exhausted but clear-headed. The silence felt different now. It was mine. I had claimed it. I looked down the hallway toward the closed door of the guest room. I knew then that I would not open it for a long time. The peace I felt was real, but it was a peace that knew the future was uncertain. The question of whether my son's marriage would survive the fissure I had just witnessed hung in the air, a silent, unsettling echo long after his car had pulled away.